Hello, Cartoon Crew. We are your hosts, Ray Kaplan
Carter Lou Hemphill,
and Odie Leslie.
and this is
Where'd the Time Go?
Where'd all the time go? It's starting to fly.
On this episode, we'll be talking about The Land Before Time, Meet the Robinsons, and Robots, with a guest interview from Miss Kastner.
You know, for The Land Before Time, I felt like it was so emotional, and I know that it was part of the plot, but when I watched it a couple of days ago, when I rewatched it, I was sitting there looking at the screen with my jaw dropped.
Was it the whole, scene with the mom?
Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah, so for those who I suppose haven't seen it or haven't seen it in a while, at the very beginning of the movie, pretty early on, the main character's mom just, dies, as most movies in the 80s do. But then for the rest of the movie, he's just, on his own with the other little dinosaurs, and yeah, I wouldn't want to compare it to Lion King, but it is that death of a parent and then the main character mourning them for a solid while. For Littlefoot, he's mourning his mother for the rest of the movie. He never really gets over it.
I think that in contrast to more recently made children's films, and obviously because it was made in the 80s, the standards I think for children's films were definitely very different. But I think it adds emotional depth because it's not just there are actual stakes, It isn't just that everyone's fine at the end or oh no, the mom didn't actually die. She was just at the store. Actually something happens and they don't just take it back at the end, and I like that.
Yeah. A lot of modern stuff does that a bit more. But the background art especially was just stunning. Bit of a topic change there, but I loved the art in that movie. I thought it was just gorgeous. And when I was doing some research for this episode, I found out that the original creators, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, they originally wanted it to be a dialogue-free Fantasia-style movie. And honestly, I think that'd have been awesome. I think that'd have been just so deep, and maybe kids wouldn't have loved it as much, but I know adults definitely would have.
I do think an older audience would be better for a movie with no dialogue, but I think it just depended on the audience and the genre of it, because it was such a heavy movie in the start that I feel like dialogue evened it out. I feel like if there was no dialogue, it would be just even more depressing.
I think another thing that kind of made it so dialogue aided the movie in more ways than one was just because I think a lot of people, and maybe not everyone, but I think a lot of people would have had trouble giving the dinosaurs maybe more human aspects, or viewing them in a way, and they just be oh, they're just animals, I think it'd be more, I think because of the dialogue, people assigned more real human emotion to animals instead of just viewing them as I guess barbaric.
A lot of modern movies, especially in Disney, has a lot of anthropomorphizing animals and stuff like that, and I really wonder what it would have been like to see it in that. I think also it's interesting to think about the voice actors specifically that they chose for this movie. Sarah, the Triceratops, I think I would have been able to sympathize with her more, actually, if she didn't have a voice. Just seeing it through her actions, she was separated from her parents, and it caused her to want to act on her own even more than she already did. And I think I'd have been able to sympathize with her more if it were just through her actions and not the high-pitched, annoying voice that they picked for her. Full respect to the voice actor, but also it's telling that that's what they chose for her. That, no, I'm gonna do what I want. Right?
I think sometimes with voice acting, the way they can assign what voices to characters can fundamentally change the way you view a character. However, I do think that without the dialogue in The Land Before Time, it would have been a very a different movie per se, because of like it would probably not like laid like been even more focused about been even more focused on like the artwork and different aspects of dinosaurs, but I think it would have been a lot less about like I don't know, like the dinosaurs talking.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't actually seen this movie until this episode because you guys suggested it originally, but my dad had when I mentioned it, and he said when he was a kid, he was about 6 years old probably, and he went to see it in theaters. He was like, "Man, I remember seeing that in theaters." And I was like, "This came out in like the 1980s." He was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Okay." But he said he remembered having to be taken out of the movie theater crying and screaming because it was just like, I mean, they do not go light on the early separation and death and like they do not go light on it. And
That
for a lot of kids, that was, I mean, it kind of hits hard.
Yeah, my mom, I was telling her about the movie as well, and she said that she watched it when she was really young, and she said that the movie like traumatized her. It was that intense, and then she watched it again, like when she was older, and it still made her like burst into tears immediately. I think one of the scenes that like this is kind of like going off topic, but one of the scenes that really I felt was super emotional was when Littlefoot is walking alone like in the sunset and he sees his own shadow and he thinks it's his mom and he goes running up to it like, "Oh my god, mom, you're here."
That, yeah,
Yeah.
that hits hard. But like as he's going, he meets all these other little dinosaurs that also lost their parents in some way or another, and they're all just coping the best they can and trying to find this paradise. And it like that hits hard, man.
a gripe I have with the movie is I feel like the whole thing about like the tectonic plates just moving because of earthquakes and that oh no, continent's different now. I feel like that's not actually how that works. But like movie logic, but at the same time, it seems like a very convenient beginning, if that makes sense.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like they just split up because then he does reunite with his grandparents at the very end. And it's not like they completely split apart, but it did cause these earthquakes that caused the land to, I mean, crack a bit, and it creates like it originally created this ravine that he couldn't get to his grandparents, and Sarah couldn't get to her parents, and I mean that's true for most of the dinosaurs, I believe. And so I mean, I can see where you get that, but I don't. I mean, it's pretty scientifically accurate. I mean, for a kids' movie from the 80s.
Mhm.
Yeah, I personally would have liked if the characters like Ducky and what was the other one? The pterodactyl. I would have liked if we got to know about their parents a little more. Um, there was an opportunity for that. I feel like potential.
Yeah, one of the other scenes that I really liked was when they're all going to sleep and they Sarah settles on the rock, a bunch of them sit over there, and then Littlefoot is like, "Wow, you guys are like you guys took up the whole rock, man. I can't sit anywhere now." So he goes and sits in a little hole by himself. Well, and then I think it was Ducky. Yeah, Ducky is like, "Man, you guys are snoring like crazy. I'm gonna go sit over here." And then they all end up going to sit by Littlefoot. I really like that scene because they all like snuggle up together, even at that time when Sarah was still like kind of just being a jerk to everybody. Like, but she still ended up coming over and sitting with everyone, and it was this bonding moment for them when they're all in this vulnerable time. They all come and sit together.
Speaking about personal experiences with The Land Before Time, we have a guest, Miss Kastner. She's our journalism teacher here at OCSA, and we invited her because she had some personal experiences she wanted to share as well.
Thank you for coming on to the podcast, Miss K. The first question I'd like to ask you is, I've heard that you rewatched The Land Before Time recently.
Yes, I watched it last night.
Something I wanted to ask you is, okay, but before then, I have a pre-emphasizing question. what have you before last night when you watched it? What was the last time you've watched it other than that?
Oh wow, that's tough. A long time ago, like maybe before time. A long time ago. My earliest memories of Land Before Time are from when I was a child and my grandparents. We used to go to Blockbuster when I would stay with them on the weekends. I know, Blockbuster. I'm aging myself. I'm not as old as Littlefoot, though, I promise. But we used to go to Blockbuster, and without a doubt, like every weekend, no matter how many times we'd already rented it, we would rent The Land Before Time. There was probably a solid year of my life where every weekend we would rent The Land Before Time. And bless my grandparents because they never said no. But probably, I don't know, it's been years since I've watched it, which was why I watched it last night, because I realized if I was going to be a guest, because you so kindly invited me, I should probably remember some of the details of the actual movie.
What do you think of the main character? Like, was there any of the dinosaurs you related to the most?
I remember I find Littlefoot kind of annoying, like low key. A little bit. He's a little bit annoying, a little bit anxious and like over the top for me sometimes. And that came out definitely last night when I was watching it. I remember that I used to really love Ducky. I think Ducky is like the best dinosaur on or in The Land Before Time. And Spike. I love Ducky and
Spike was my guy.
Yeah, same.
The other thing is having rewatched it. Like, I feel like when we watch things and consume, I don't want to say media because I give it a certain tone, but in a way, media. I feel like we form an idea of it in our mind, like a memory of it, and that's how we perceive it, even if that's not actually what it was. How has your perception and I guess kind of memory of The Land Before Time changed when you rewatched it?
It's funny because I remember how The Land Before Time made me feel. Like, I remember that I had big feelings associated with it, and I know that it was like my all-time favorite movie and what started me on my love for like dinosaurs when I was a kid. So all of those feelings were still there, like sitting down to watch it, but I forgot one, like how quickly it moves, because it's only like an hour runtime. It's like maybe like an hour and like 8 minutes or something.
Yeah, it's really short.
So it's like quick and snappy compared to like movies. I feel like now when you sit down to watch even kids' movies are generally not super quick or super short runtime. So it was fast. And I kind of had my fiance there to like keep my expectations in check, because he was very upfront about telling me that we were about to watch a movie that had not aged well. And he was the first one to call out how he felt about the effects and the background. And there was a scene we were watching, and I was like, is it snowing? Like, what's happening right now? And he was like, no, that's just its age.
Or that's, the ash falling from the sky.
Yeah.
Also,
did determine that was probably it.
So what does that imply? Does that imply that the extinction of the dinosaurs was like soon to follow after the movie? Because you saw a bunch of volcanoes, and in some scenes you literally saw ash falling from the sky. You saw the tectonic plates moving. So what does that imply?
Well,
they had all of those like different signs of like the end of times throughout the movie. But as a kid, of course, I didn't catch any of that.
Of course.
Like, oh, the earth's shaking.
I think there was a lot of there were a lot of sequels to it. I never watched them, but I know that there were a lot of sequels. So
At least
I
like
feel
6.
like-
I think there's like 6 or 7 Land Before Times.
yeah, I feel like there was at least a long enough period of time before the actual extinction.
They don't ever. I mean, they don't ever acknowledge. I don't think any of the dinosaurs acknowledge that it's like end times, because they wouldn't know that it's like end times. But
Right.
But I think it is important to acknowledge that the original creators were not involved in any of those sequels, actually.
I
It
would
was
absolutely believe that, having watched the sequels.
Yeah. I mean, I really would have loved to see what they could have done if they wanted to do a sequel, or
Live action Land Before Time. Can we make that a thing?
with the
Wait.
CGI.
Yes.
Could I
James Cameron directing.
Could I say
like
some-
his next Avatar.
could I say something
7
about-
hours.
Put Tom Holland in there just for
Chris Pratt.
kicks and giggles.
Could I say
Pratt.
something?
Tom Holland is Littlefoot.
Yeah.
May I say something about
Yes,
that actually? Something interesting I found, which was actually like very shocking to me, was the two producers of The Land Before Time were Steven Spielberg and George Lucas.
Yeah.
And so I feel like had those people like come together today, a live action, I feel like remake of it.
Would have been off the table.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm one of those people. Literally worked on the was either directing or producing. I've forgotten which. The Jurassic Park movie. So I feel like that would have been a very possible outcome
Well, okay,
if they wanted it.
my thing with that is that a lot of those live action remakes that are made nowadays are simply for the purpose of, I mean, not to get political, but capitalism of, hey, this is something a lot of people like. Hey, we're gonna make 1,000,000 sequels. We're gonna redo it all with live action because surely that's what people want.
I mean, as an elder millennial, that is actually all I want. I just want to go back to my childhood and like live in the nostalgia of no problems, no worries, no bills. And this would have been that time period for me.
As like you know a lot of, I guess, children. What do you think like the age demographic would be for this movie nowadays? Of like people who would actually appreciate the film.
That's a good question. Because I wouldn't say it's like overly scientific as far as like explaining dinosaur knowledge or facts or information. I mean, it's just kind of, it boils down to a cute story about a kid who's lost and trying to find his way home, really. I don't know. I would say maybe above the like kindergarten age range, but no, I'm not gonna make the joke again unnecessarily, Carter.
For those listening in at home, his hands are doing a
He's
little
trying
gesture.
to trick me into something.
What did you think the movie did well?
I think it's a timeless story. Like,
Yeah.
it's a story that it's not overly complicated. We talk a lot, especially in creative writing, we talk a lot about how to tell a story and how to get from beginning to end of your story and like keep the reader with you and engaged. And I mean, in that sense, it does. It's got good characters. It's got not a like complicated story or overly complex, but like it's just a good, straightforward story that's kind of feel good because it has a happy ending.
Yeah.
Well, for the most part.
For part one.
I
For
do
part
think
one.
I do think it is really nice that the mom stays dead, which is an awful
Are you
sentence.
worried about the mom like reincarnating
Okay,
at the end
but-
of this?
We
I mean,
mentioned this
because
earlier.
because it was in the 80s, it was more normal for when someone dies, they stay dead. With a lot of modern media, it's but no, they're actually alive
I
because
see what you're
of
saying. Like, just surprise. Gotcha.
surprise.
She
Yeah, it's-
survived.
Right.
yeah. So I'm actually really happy that she stays dead and
Like,
You
should
can
say
word that
unpopular
better.
opinion.
Word that better.
yeah, she should like awful sentence, but I'm glad they did it the way they did and that he is mourning her for the whole movie.
I agree. Would you recommend like people today to watch it?
You say that like
I
it was ancient
think,
history.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I mean, I
guess.
watched it last night, so definitely people today should watch it. But not for free because it costs money to watch it everywhere you can stream it.
Not where I watch it.
That I found that part outrageous.
I'm leaving that part out read and say where I watched it.
Yeah,
So if you're
I
watching
say
it on
where I
a legal
watched it.
streaming site. It will cost
Because
$3.99.
like $4 for a movie released in 1988 on like Amazon Prime Video. That's again capitalism. I would like to thank you
Yeah,
again for
that'll happen.
taking time to come onto the podcast today. This interview has been very good, and I think you have very good, methodically thought out answers to our questions. So
Yeah, thank
everyone,
you
can we
again
have a
for
round of
coming on.
applause for Miss Casper?
Thanks for inviting me. I'd love to come gab dinosaur films or any films anytime. When's your Twilight episode? I'll come on to that too.
Oh, don't you worry about that. So thanks again to Miss Kastner.
Moving on to another movie that I think dealt with a lot of heavy topics but did really well with it. There was Meet the Robinsons, and it talked about adoption.
I mean, among other things.
Yeah, among other things, but it starts with two characters, the two main characters, I guess.
Yeah,
that
Lewis and
had-
Goob. I
yeah,
can't remember what his real name was. 'cause-
Michael.
Michael, yes.
Oh wow.
They dealt with, they were in the adoption system, is that the right
They were in
word?
the orphanage.
or the
I think.
orphanage.
In the orphanage, sorry. And they both had very different outcomes in their lives.
I mean, it was kind of both. It was due to both of. Sorry, it was. the way they looked at life and the way they dealt with their problems, because that was Lewis's whole slogan, was like keep moving forward. Whereas with Goob, after that one mistake, he just kind of sat there for the next 20 years or so doing absolutely nothing until finally he was just like, I'm gonna go get that guy. And yeah.
For some context, Lewis is inventing something for the science fair project, and he keeps Goob up holding a light the day before his t-ball game. And so because Goob doesn't get very much sleep that night, the next day he falls asleep, even though he's in like the exact right. He falls asleep on the field, but he should have caught the home run ball, which would have won his team the game, but he was like dozing off. And so he kind of holds on. He kind of holds on to that resentment because, like, it's like, oh, it's Lewis's fault, and then that kind of bleeds into his like possible adoptions, but all of the possible like adopters slash parents see him as like a very angry, resentful child, which kind of like snowballs him into the person he is.
Yeah. Falling asleep was his villain arc.
Same. But the other way around. Waking up is my villain arc. But anyway, honestly, I really like Goob's character, just the way that I mean, after he grows up and he always blamed that on Lewis. Like, he always knew it was his fault. Well, I say knew, but he saw it as his fault. And then once he becomes an adult, he finds Doris, and Doris sees how unstable this guy is. And Doris is, by the way, a talking hat. Not talking, but like sentient hat that can communicate.
It had little legs.
Yeah, it had little legs and one big eye. And it was a bowler hat. He was called the bowler hat guy for Doris. And Doris saw him as such an unstable guy that could be easily manipulated, and he was. For the whole movie, Doris was manipulating him to cause the apocalypse, where Doris would multiply and take over the world.
I think that's actually one of the funnier jokes in Meet the Robinsons. The fact that Doris can just do like mitosis. Like, remember the scene where there's like a smaller bowler hat that just exists?
Yeah.
Like, that's just, I think, really funny because where does it come from? You know, it's like a smaller bowler hat that.
It's like the Russian nesting doll. There's like 8 hats in there.
I think that Goob is like partially at fault for the person he becomes because he holds on to everything and doesn't let go. But I think he's also a victim of circumstance at times. Because, like, even though he's not willing to let go, a lot of things I feel like don't go right for him. Like, he doesn't get adopted. And so, like, I think, like, he doesn't let go and that is his fault. But I'm not sure he knows how to let go.
Yeah, I could see that. I was thinking, I don't know, like, what the whole orphanage looks like, but couldn't he have asked for a different room, maybe? Like, I feel like there were ways to prevent the lack of sleep from the light that Lewis had on. I don't know.
I don't think he was thinking about it because, like, but I don't think it was that inconvenient, and I don't think he had like the wherewithal to realize that it might affect him the next day. I think it was just like an annoyance at the time that led to something else.
Yeah, I just feel like he had this whole villain arc that could have easily been avoided.
I feel like it is also weird that he's just at the like orphanage for like 30 years and then becomes like this like 30-year-old
That is generally how it works after 30.
Right, but you would think that like eventually after he became like a legal adult, he would be responsible for himself and like, I don't know, get a job, do something. But he generally just doesn't.
Yeah, but moving over to Lewis's story, he is this brilliant inventor who wants to go places in life, and he wants so desperately to get adopted from the beginning of the movie. Then, about I mean, about like 20 minutes into the movie, he meets this guy named Wilbur, who we later, near the end of the movie, find out is actually his son. But Wilbur doesn't tell him that, of course. He takes him to the future because the bowler hat guy, who we later find out is Goob, he stole
A time
Lewis.
machine.
Yeah, he stole a time machine that was invented by Lewis, and Wilbur left open the garage door and now has to get it back so that his dad doesn't find out. His dad in the future. So there is a lot of time travel stuff happening there, but when you're actually watching it, it flows really nicely and like it's very easy to understand. It's only explaining it that becomes a bit more difficult.
I think one of the things that does make Meeting the Robinsons, like if you take the movie at face value, it's not necessarily a problem. But if you think about it more, a lot of the time travel in the movie, like, is confusing in the sense where it's like there's a time loop where time travel leads to the events that lead to time travel. Like I feel like the first time is a bad word because I'm referring to time travel. The first loop, they didn't have time travel, and it doesn't make sense, I think. Because, like, I think there's something that specifically happens because of the time loop that doesn't happen before then, which doesn't make sense. What are your experiences watching the movie, Odie?
When I was little, I really liked this movie, and I think it was because of how many characters and how complex the time traveling was. At least to like my 9-year-old brain. But yeah, I remember really liking the movie, and when I found out that we were gonna do it for the podcast, I was like glad because I haven't watched it in a while.
You say that, you're the one who suggested it.
Was I?
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite parts about Meet the Robinsons is sometimes it feels like it's more than one movie because it doesn't just follow like the hero's journey, right? Like I feel like it's one of the few Disney movies, or I don't even know if it's a Disney movie, but it's one of the few like I feel like movies of its time where we actually see what could happen if like the villain wins. If that makes sense.
I mean,
Yeah.
Goob isn't. He's not a traditional villain.
I don't mean Goob isn't the villain of the movie.
No,
Doris
it
is.
becomes a twist villain where Doris is the real villain.
In a-
He was being
but-
manipulated for kind of
In a
that whole
way,
movie.
Goob is really just a henchman to carry out Doris's darkest desires, but Goob isn't really evil, I think. I think he's just
Well-
misled.
We don't find that out though until later in the movie. We are under the impression that he is the villain.
I think he's antagonist, but not villain. I think there's like a distinction there.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
guess.
I definitely wouldn't call him an anti-hero. He's not doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
He's just this kid in a grown-up's body that is just trying to find some kind of revenge for something he believes is this like 12-year-old's fault.
I think they're kind of representative of their perspectives in life. Like the reason why I think Goob is okay, I need to explain this in the way I'm thinking about it. So bear with me here. I think Doris is in a way a representation of like the grudges that Goob holds. Right? Because when Doris is made by Lewis, it's like this is evil, this is sentient, this is bad, and it's put away, right? Whereas Goob still holds on to it and kind of clings to it desperately. More on that, I think that because like the whole motto of Lewis's family is keep moving forward. And I feel like that's why he got to where he did, because where Goob was at the orphanage until he was like 30, which is hilarious, admittedly. But because he moved forward despite like the challenges life might have given him, that's the reason why he got where he did. Whereas I think Goob, because he was so so stuck. So stuck. So stuck in the past, he was like unable to really, well, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of funny, minute details in Meet the Robinsons. I think one of my favorite ones are just the fact that like the frogs from the science fair, like with the girl who, like his wife, but in the past, who wants to communicate with animals, they're just like sentient frogs now, and there's like the frog bar. Like that's hilarious in my opinion.
How did she do that?
I
Was
forgot what you
that
were
talked about?
I don't remember if it is, but I'm assuming they're just like sentient now, and there's no explanation.
I forgot what
She's
you were talking
magical.
about for a second, and by frog bar, I was picturing frog limbo, and that was not what you were talking about. So I'm with it now, though.
The wife is actually she's not, but it sounds like she's a Disney princess who turned these frogs sentient because I
Well,
don't
the
think that's
frogs
talked
also
about.
stole her father-in-law's teeth.
Oh yeah,
I don't remember that, but I'm sure it exists.
Yeah,
I'm sure it happened.
There's
that
then
makes
there's like the
sense.
meatball cannon.
This movie is so whimsical.
Oh my
actually.
god. There's like that one uncle who has like a freaking he like delivers pizzas from like a spaceship.
Yeah,
Can you imagine? You order like a supreme pizza and a spaceship pulls up to your driveway and it's like a 112-inch supreme pizza. You're like, oh. Like that's so like ridiculous.
then,
And then- None of the family looks like they're related in any way, shape, or form.
yeah,
Well, I think the difference is these ones have black hair and these ones have a weird squiggle. I think that's
Those
how-
ones are Ginger and his wife is dead.
oh,
Oh,
Like he's just talking to a puppet that I can't tell if it's like actually like his wife and he had children with the puppet, or if his wife is just deceased and he's just grieving in a really weird way.
yeah,
yeah. They don't like talk about.
They don't clarify that,
They don't.
and I feel like I would be like, of course his wife died and it's like a puppet to like represent her, but I'm really not sure because Meet the Robinsons is such a weird movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a side character who appears like 3 times through the whole movie, and like 2 of those are background shots. So, yeah, they don't really touch on that again.
And then what else is like a ridiculous thing? I think the entire thing about Goob is like ridiculous, where he's just in the orphanage at 30 because Future is a very successful inventor because he's invented all of these things, and so he's also quite well off because of it. His family, he marries the girl, I believe, from the science fair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that was trying to talk to the frogs.
yeah,
I mean, eventually it works. So.
And then he lives in kind of like it's not really a mansion per se, it's just like a really, really kind of ridiculous big house with a lot of room. So in a way it's a mansion, but
yeah.
it's not.
He has a very different outcome, and it's that's the main part of the movie, and it's what makes it really humorous.
I think that there are like a lot of funny characters and jokes surrounding his family. I think one of them is the fact that like no 2 characters look the same or even similar. They
I
all
mean,
have
except for
their
the twins.
Well, because it's
well, yeah, they're twins. Well, they're literally like this. Okay.
I feel like the wife's side of the family looks kind of like her siblings, but
I think it's just because they all have black hair and like a weird squiggly thing.
My point is that like even the characters that look similar look different. And they're all like they don't look the same, they just have an aspect of themselves that is shared. But no 2 of the like family members are just boring or flat or don't have any like personality. But like I like that about it. There are no filler characters, I think, in the family.
yeah, even the puppet wife thing doesn't feel like random or filler. I feel like it goes along with the craziness of the movie really well because we don't know who the puppet is. Like we know it's the wife of the old guy. I forgot what his name
I
is.
like the puppet of his wife because it wasn't just like for like a throwaway gag, right?
Yeah.
It was we genuinely can't like he genuinely believes that this is his wife. And we can't tell if this is actually his wife and she's just like in a puppet's body, or it's just like a puppet, or if it's just like a way of grieving her death. But the movie, I think that's one of the great things about Meet the Robinsons. A lot of things in the movie are ridiculous or profound, but the movie takes itself seriously throughout the entire thing.
Yeah. And
Like, it's not
I
like,
think at the same time it doesn't take itself too seriously.
exactly.
though.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like, oh my god, I have a meatball cannon. It's like, of course I have a meatball cannon. Now pass the Parmesan, you know?
Yeah. Which is talking about the meatball cannon. Lewis grows up to have like so many odd inventions that they talk about. There was the peanut butter and jelly thing
Mm.
that we see earlier in the movie, but it gets brought up. It gets shown again by I think the robot thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carl.
He has it in the future, and that's like a little like foreshadowing
Mm.
for later in the movie.
I've always thought that the whole peanut butter and jelly invention was really interesting because I feel like both of the peanut butter and jelly are quite viscous, so it's weird that it just flows like a liquid, you know? Like they just have liquid
Yeah.
jelly, which is very
Yeah,
odd.
sounds gross.
Yeah, just fire.
Oh. Okay. Were there any other what were other inventions that he had? Oh well, there was obviously the time
the
machine.
pizza delivery guy, I don't remember his name, but he has like the spaceship for pizza delivery, which is just
He made the bubble transport things. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I remember they made the bubble transport things where you walk into the bubble and it takes you wherever. Then there was his first really successful invention, the one at the very start of the movie, and then again at the very end, that can search through your memories.
oh my goodness, yeah. And he made that because of he's trying to remember the thing of his mom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We never do find out who his mom is. At the beginning of the movie, he has this idea that if he can find out who his mom is, then she'll, of course, want to adopt him. And so he spends the science fair trying to make this invention. At the end of the movie, it really does work, but the person who he shows it to, she ends up adopting him and creating that future that we see during the middle of the movie.
This could be speculation and not actually factual, so keep that in mind. I've always been of the opinion that somehow, because of the time travel, that's how he was like delivered as a baby there. It was like as a result of something that like he invented.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. With that much time travel, that's usually how it ends up happening.
I think it's really okay. I'm gonna go on like kind of a tangent here, but the entire movie from the perspective of like, if you just like look at the basic plot of the movie and like take it with a grain of salt and don't take it seriously, it's kind of funny. So basically, there's like this kid that invents something, right? And then while he's inventing it, his roommate at the orphanage is holding a light and or like is awake because of that. Then the next day, it's his t-ball game. He misses catching the ball, loses his game. He ages 30 years. Now he's just like this really, really like he's just a really bitter 30-year-old like man with a mustache. So then basically, fast forward in the future. Oh, the science fair project, a girl he meets there, he marries, and they have like a kid, right?
Lewis.
That kid, yeah.
Yeah, Lewis meets his wife, and then they have Wilbur.
Yeah, and then Wilbur just leaves the garage door open, and I guess because he's invented so many things in the future, there's just a time machine in the garage, which makes no sense, because why would you have just anyway. So then the bitter 30-year-old man sneaks into this guy's garage, steals the time machine, and also has a sentient bowler hat that is misleading him and manipulating him in their like interpersonal relationship, which leads him to enslave all of humanity and cause the apocalypse.
Accidentally. So sadly, our third host, Carter, will not be joining us for the last movie, but it is okay because I talk enough for the both of us.
Yeah.
Our-
Okay.
well, you didn't have to agree with me.
Okay.
Our last movie is Robots, produced in 2005 by Blue Sky Studios. This one is one of my favorites. It's why I suggested it.
Yeah, I remember when I was little, I did not like it as much, but there are reasons for that that I think we might be able to get into later. But also, it to me in my head, it blended a lot with our last movie we talked about, Meet the Robinsons. It might have been like the futuristic concept of it, but for some reason, like it completely blended. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, that's fair. For two completely different studios, I don't know if we mentioned this, but Meet the Robinsons was actually produced by Disney, and those two movies are very similar in their animation style, so I can definitely see that. Robots, specifically, it was one of my favorites. I didn't get this the first time I watched it, and to be fair, I was like 6 years old, but I know, like, how lame of me not being
Loser.
not understanding the theme of the movie at grand 6 years old. But its whole theme is, I mean, Big Weld says it in the movie, see a need, fill a need, and it's Big Weld is one of the first characters introduced on the movie, albeit through television. He is the main character's role model. He's this large weld of a robot, and he is the company owner of Big Weld Industries. I know, shocker. But at first it seems like he's like the embodiment of capitalism, and then the movie kind of shifts away from that a little. Well, I mean, it does still cover capitalism quite a bit in that when the main character is sent into Robot City, was that what it was called?
I think so.
Robot City.
Yeah.
We might correct me if I'm wrong later, but when he gets to the city, he finds out that Big Weld has actually been replaced by someone new who literally has the quote in the movie, "Upgrades, people, upgrades!" And he says that we don't need to sell individual parts anymore. We can sell the whole thing and make people pay for everything, even if they don't need it, and we can squeeze every last cent.
Yeah, and this is obviously a really big point for the main character, who is Rodney Copperbottom. He grows up poor, and he's always getting like hand-me-downs and stuff, and so I guess Big Weld was such a big he was such a big inspiration for Rodney, and then when he comes to the city and he finds that he's not there, it's kind of crushing for him.
Yeah, I mean, soon after finding that out, he meets Robin Williams' character along with a few others. What was his character's name? It was
Fender Pinwood.
Fender! I love Fender.
These
He's
names
so
are
goofy.
so horrendous.
I love them. They're great. But just so for anyone who doesn't remember the movie or needs a refresher, Rodney grows up poor, as my co-host here said, and he wants to be an inventor. He goes to the city, and he is pretty much immediately rejected by the new guy. What was the new guy's name? It was like
Hold on, wait.
Mr.
Sorry.
Capitalism or something?
No,
Mr. Evil?
Ratchet.
Ratchet! Yeah.
Even more horrendous name, but it's fitting.
I love it. Yeah, Ratchet pretty much immediately is like, no, I'm gonna take money, no?
Yeah, you're stupid. Why would you want to give people opportunities?
Yeah,
Like,
how dare you?
how dare you?
But then the movie ends with this whole fight scene with Madam. I'm not gonna even try for her name. What was it? It was like I'm not no.
Madam Gasket.
Yeah, Madam Gasket. Oh, what a woman.
Yeah, yeah, she had a very interesting design, I felt.
Yeah, she's very. Very interesting
Why-
indeed.
why
if
did they do that?
if you want to know why, just search her up. Don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did they do that?
But I really enjoyed this movie. It was one of my favorites. But you said that you didn't like it as a kid. Why was that?
Both because of how I didn't remember it very well, but also it had quite a bit of adult jokes, especially in the beginning that it had quite a bit of adult jokes that I did not like at the beginning because even though I didn't understand them, I felt the awkwardness in the room. And I assume they did that on purpose, but yeah, when I was little, it made me uncomfortable.
I don't think I got them when I was a kid, but on my more recent rewatch, these jokes are funny. One of my favorite earlier jokes, and I mean, it's also one of the most famous jokes of the movie, was the making the baby sing.
Yeah, that was interesting. They had a whole saxophone little music piece right there when she said it. I definitely
Making the babies the fun.
I didn't get it when I was little, but that definitely was awkward especially because of the music. It was in it. Why did you do that?
No, it was fun. Yeah, I mean, I really like the jokes in that movie. I think they're really funny. But, I mean, this might be a bit of a jump, but I also like what they didn't make jokes about. That it was actually a very progressive movie for 2005. There was pretty early on in the movie, we already said that he has a bunch of hand-me-downs, and some of those are from his female relatives, and so there's
Yeah.
a senior picture where he's wearing his female cousin's chest plate.
It's isn't it this pink dress that he's wearing for the senior photos?
Yeah. And then later on in the movie, I'm pretty sure it's Fender who ends up wearing a skirt at the end of the movie, and nobody says anything, and I am so here for that. We love Fender.
Yeah, the joke with the skirt was in the fight scene.
Yeah, then in the fight scene, he starts singing this song. Yeah, I mean, all the jokes in that movie, there were plenty for kids, and then there were plenty for adults too, which I really liked that movie did that, because when people are taking their kids to see the movie, it's the adults who are taking them. And so they gotta enjoy it too.
Yeah,
And
gotta make it a little bit interesting to some extent.
yeah, so I think that movie was just great for all ages, really. I really enjoyed it.
There was like we said earlier, there was a lot of good representation for growing up in a poor family, and I think it could resonate with a lot of people who grew up in a poor family and had a lot of big dreams for themselves, and it was inspirational to an extent. And that's another thing that they did really well that could hit their target audience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, I just want to circle back on the actual message of the movie. I said that it has large themes of capitalism, and they talk about that a lot. But I think they also do talk a bit about socialism in there. That it's what Big Wealth says. It's see a need, fill a need. It is for the benefit of all. Do what you want to do and what you're good at, and benefit everyone. And I really liked that movie. As a kid, you don't really see the political aspects of it as much, but it is very present.
It still managed to give some sort of message either way.
So yeah, you don't notice a lot of those political messages when you're a kid, but they're very prominent watching it back now. That movie was just a masterclass at what it did, at least in my opinion.
It managed to have a lot of lessons in it.
Also, one more thing that I wanted to say was the aesthetic of the movie. I also really liked. It was very retrofuturism, and comparing that to some of the previous movies, Meet the Robinsons was very futuristic, and Land Before Time had a natural feel to it. I mean, it was literally prehistoric. So I this is one of my favorite aesthetics.
Yeah, there was a bit of a contrast, but they like all three of them had a theme of like family and believing in yourself and stuff. So yeah, I thought that they're all, even though they had different settings, they're all pretty good to talk about.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, all three of their messages are just great. But talking about a bit more about robots specifically, if you haven't seen it recently, then I highly recommend it. It's one of my old favorites. And really for good reason if what we've said already hasn't convinced you. And I mean that cast list is nuts, really. But just I think that about wraps it up for this
Yeah.
movie. I mean, killer movie. I stand by that. But I mean, these three movies, I loved them all, and I'm really glad that we got to do this episode. This one is our last, so I mean, I'm glad that we were able to do these movies to be our big finale here.
Yeah.
A special thank you to everyone who worked on the podcast, Miss Kastner for coming into an interview, and again, we're sorry that Carter couldn't make it for the last episode or the last movie on the episode.
Yeah. Being that this is our last episode, I want to say that I did enjoy all of the research and all of the watching of the movies. Yeah.
It's been a fun time, and we're super glad for everyone who joined us, and thank you guys. This has been Ray Kaplan
And Obi Leslie.
and Carter, who can't say it for himself. This is Where'd the Time Go?
Where'd all the time